Thank you, Chair Lida, for convening this hearing, and I want to thank our witnesses for being here today. Since I've been in Congress, I've come to understand the problem of Chinese espionage is staggering, particularly since the passage of China's 2017 National Intelligence Act. Every single Chinese company is an asset of China's national intelligence network, no matter where they operate. I'm currently considering a draft piece of legislation that would add foreign advisory Internet of Things module producers to the FCC's covered list. Through this piece of legislation, although it has not been introduced, it's in the draft phase. Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit this draft legislation for the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, could you explain the risk we face if we allow foreign adversary produced Internet of Things modules to continue to be integrated into our systems?
There are two general risks. The first is that the Internet of Things provides you access to the larger telecommunications network. And so as we've been talking about with routers and home office equipment, that may not be the most important piece, but you get your foot in the door and you can go into the larger networks. The second piece is that it would create new opportunities for espionage by the immense amounts of data that the Internet of Things would create. And most people know now that your car is sort of a rolling computer.
Right.
It's wirelessly connected. Very often the connections are made by Chinese companies. Certainly if you're driving a European car, it's got Chinese connectivity.
Right.
So you'll be generating huge amounts of data that these data analytic tools, artificial intelligence, can analyze for intelligence benefit.
Yeah, I learned in conference that Google knows where I've been and how fast I drove to get there. So, and so probably the Chinese know it as well. Mr. Lewis, how at risk are Taiwan's communication networks?
Well, Taiwan is, of course, the principal target for a lot of Chinese activities because of the Chinese government's belief that it has some ownership over Taiwan. The target priorities for China are first, its own population, second, the United States, and then I would say third, Taiwan. So that level of attention, that level of penetration by the Chinese intelligence service means that Taiwan is at considerable risk.
Good, thank you. Mr. Gorman, Ms. Gorman, could you please provide an overview of the undersea cable network?
Specifically in Taiwan, yes, is served by 16 undersea cables. We have had reports of some of them being cut, potentially by Chinese ships, about a year ago. And this is how the island receives its internet. There are 4 cables that connect Taiwan directly to the United States, a number of indirect connections. But I think what's concerning is that many of these cables are owned by multiple consortia of stakeholders from around the world, from around the places that they're connecting. Most of Taiwan's submarine cables do have ownership from Chinese telecom providers, China Mobile, China Telecom, China Unicom. So in an event of a Taiwan crisis scenario, I believe they would be at risk.
Okay, and so the vulnerability there is that the Chinese Communist Party would cut these lines and cut that service out?
That's certainly a risk, and that the population would lose its access to the internet. When that happened, when the Matsu cable was...
So what security measures should we take to enhance provide protection for these cables against these potential threats and disruptions?
Two things. One, we can have more streamlined and better monitoring of when these cables might be under risk of being cut around the cable, and better action to restore them and repair them. You can repair these things, but it's extremely expensive to do so. Better, cheaper ways, quicker ways of repairing it to get the internet back online faster. And then we also need to be looking in, and Taiwan is looking into backstops. Right now, the backstop that's been proposed has just an incredible amount of latency. It can take hours to send a text message. So satellite communications, low Earth orbit constellations, Starlink-esque communications networks, I think Taiwan is certainly looking to, especially given how they've played out in Ukraine.
Okay, well, thank you, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.